there are people in your life that will tell you something about the Lord that will come back later on. Hello, my name is Jeffrey Greenbaum. I've been coming here to North Park Church for about, 5 years. When I was 5 years old, I remember riding on a subway. This guy comes walking by and he's giving out comic books. And in the comic books, there are these little puppet characters. On the cover, I imagine, was a puppet Joseph, puppet Mary, pregnant, and a puppet donkey. And my aunt said, "Oh no, he doesn't know anything about that." And I actually did, because in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when TV used to come on, I used to watch these same puppets. That's person number one. My contention is, and that's why Amber asked me to do this, is that there are people in your life that will tell you something about the Lord that will come back later on. Now that person, he doesn't know that this has happened to me. He just went on his way. The next person I want to tell you about is a fellow named Al Forbes. We had to go to this sleepaway camp, and Al was one of them that was there, and I was there. And I said, "Al, what are you walking around with a Bible for? We're having a party here." And he began to tell me about the Lord. He told me what was going to happen in the future. I said, "You know what, Al? No. This is absolutely no way. Thanks, but go away." So we move along a little bit now and talk about wild. The hippies thought I was strange, so that's how far out I was. And I remember walking on a beach in Los Angeles, and at the time we had people called Jesus people who were hippies and became converted and still look like hippies, but were going around telling everyone about Jesus. And this girl came up to me and she said, "Jesus can make you happy." And I said, "Well, I am happy. Thanks very much. Go away." When I said, "I'm happy now," I believe that the Lord took that as a challenge. And he brought me into a circumstance. It involved a girl and she broke my heart. Now, really, really wild times. I was in Haight-Ashbury, if you know what that is, the center of all of hippiedom. I came across this fellow. Actually, we lived in the same apartment. Something happened to him. Everyone said, "John's going crazy." Full disclosure, I was doing drugs. John came down and sat next to me and he said, "Jeff, will you believe me if I tell you the truth?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "God is building a kingdom and he wants you to be part of it." I said, "That's great. That is what I want. That's what I'm looking for." He said, "You can't smoke cigarettes, you can't smoke dope," he called it, marijuana, "and you can't kill anyone." Well, that sounds easy enough. So I quit cigarettes and I quit dope for a good 20 minutes. But I did start looking at the Bible after that. I went to this Christian commune and they took me to church with them. And the fellow preached on Peter stepping out onto the water at Christ's call. Now, John met this fellow Mitch. Mitch, assuming that I was a Christian, asked John, "How's Jeff doing?" And John said, "He's doing terrible. He's back in drugs and the hippie life and all that." So Mitch decided he would come and see me, which he did. He came and saw me. He came up, he says, "Why don't you come to a Bible study?" I said, "Maybe." Go away. And that night, you might find this a little bit difficult to believe, and full disclosure, we were doing psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, LSD. I was sitting, this was in a third floor apartment. And I remembered this sermon about Peter stepping out on the water. And I said, "I'm gonna do that." And I went to get up and I felt like a hand on my shoulder and pushed me down. I saw a figure, all in white, long white cloak, a sword, and long white hair. And I heard the name Jesus spoken over and over. It was like the heavens opened up and I can hear just Jesus being worshiped by the heavenly host. And at that time, I knew, this was, I believe, planted in my heart some things. One, Jesus died for my sins, which I never even believed in sin. I knew that Jesus was the only way, and I knew that the Bible was God's Word. And I've never doubted any of those things ever since. I've doubted other things, but it always comes back to that. That's like a rock that my faith is built on. After that, I went to, you remember I told you about Mitch Glazer? I went and knocked on his door. He opened the door and he immediately knew something happened to me, and he just threw his arms around me